I was balancing a new job, a toddler, and a sick dog when my in-laws showed up unexpectedly. My house was a mess. My mother-in-law looked around and said, "A real woman wouldn't let it get like this." My husband said, "She's trying." Sort of. The next day, I came home to find every room clean, but every photo of me taken down. Replaced with his sister. His mother said, "Just until you earn your spot again." I'm not sure when exactly things started to turn. Maybe it was after I had my daughter. Or maybe it was always like this, and I was just too busy surviving to notice. My name's Erica. I'm 34, and I live just outside Fort Worth, Texas. I used to be a stay-at-home mom. 2 years of diapers, no sleep, and feeling invisible. This year, I got a part-time job at a local accounting office. It's not glamorous, but I was proud. I felt like I was finally doing something for myself again. Jake, my husband, never really adjusted. He liked it better when I was home all the time. He said he was proud of me, but every time I came home to him sitting on the couch, scrolling his phone while Riley tore up the living room and Toby, our old pit mix, cried from the corner, I started to feel like I was doing everything alone. Toby was dying. We knew it. Kidney failure. The vet gave him a few months, and I refused to put him down early. I was cleaning up after him, hand-feeding him, sleeping beside him some nights when he cried. Jake said it was gross.
He didn't help.
I barely slept. I worked, parented, took care of a dying dog, and tried not to lose my mind. Then that weekend happened. The one I still can't get out of my head. It was a Saturday morning. I was running late for everything. Riley had a meltdown over the wrong socks. The dog had another accident in the kitchen, and I was trying to throw on some clothes and get to the store before the afternoon rush. I got back from groceries around noon. Riley had finally fallen asleep in her car seat. I turned into the driveway and saw it. Jake's parents' silver SUV. They live 4 hours away. They didn't call. They didn't text. Nothing. I sat there in the car, heart racing, staring at their stupid bumper sticker that says, "Family is everything." I opened the door and walked into a scene I'll never forget. Margaret, Jake's mom, was standing in our living room with her arms crossed, staring at the mess. There were toys everywhere. Dirty dishes from breakfast still out. Dog hair on the furniture. It looked like a family lived there, not a model home, but that didn't matter. She didn't say hello, didn't ask how I was. She just looked at me and said, "A real woman wouldn't let it get like this." I froze. Jake was leaning against the wall behind her. He shrugged and said, "She's trying." Sort of. That cut me worse than his mother's words. Sort of? I was breaking my back every single day. I didn't say anything. I walked into the kitchen, put the groceries away in silence while Margaret complained about the state of my home like I wasn't there. I cried that night. In the bathroom, with the water running so no one would hear. Toby curled up at my feet, wheezing. The next day, Sunday, I left early. I dropped Riley off at daycare, then went straight to work. I needed the peace. I was gone most of the day. When I came home, the house felt wrong. The smell hit me first: bleach, pine sol, lavender. Everything was sparkling clean. The floors mopped, furniture polished, even the dog bowls scrubbed. I thought maybe they were trying to apologize. I wanted to believe that for a second. Then I walked into the living room. All the pictures of me were gone. Our wedding picture?
Gone.
My maternity shoot?
Gone.
The framed family picture I had made for Jake's birthday last year?
Gone.
Instead, every frame had a photo of Beth, Jake's sister. Beth with Jake. Beth with Riley. Beth with their parents. Graduation photos. Childhood photos. One of her in a pageant dress from when she was 10. Some of these weren't even digital. They were old prints. Margaret had to have brought them from home. I stood there frozen, hands shaking. My whole life had been erased. It looked like Beth was Jake's wife. Beth was Riley's mother. I found Margaret in the kitchen, sipping wine like nothing had happened. She smiled and said, "Just until you earn your spot again." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just turned around and walked out. sat in my car, and stared at the dash for 30 minutes before I could breathe again. That was the day I realized something important. This wasn't about a messy house. This wasn't about me being tired or Toby being sick. They didn't think I was failing. They were just waiting for me to fail. They didn't want to help me. They wanted to replace me. And I started to wonder, what if they already were? I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Jake snored beside me like nothing had happened. My stomach twisted every time I thought about those photos. About her face, where mine used to be. The next morning, I waited for Jake to leave for work. I didn't ask where his parents were staying. I already knew. They were in our guest room. They had made themselves at home. Once he was gone, I went into the living room and started opening drawers, closets, anything I could think of. I found the photos.
Mine.
All shoved in a plastic bin in the hall closet under some old blankets. Not broken. Not thrown out. Just hidden. I pulled them out one by one, my hand shaking. There was my wedding photo. Riley's newborn picture. My college graduation photo that used to hang by the bookshelf. They had been carefully removed, as if they didn't want to damage anything. They weren't trying to destroy me. They were trying to put me on hold. I took the bin and carried it into the master bedroom. I placed it right on the bed and waited for Jake to come home. When he walked in, he saw it immediately. "What's this?" he asked, like he was confused. I stood across the room and said, "You tell me." He looked through the photos, then shrugged. Mom didn't mean anything by it. She just wanted to make the house look nice while she was here. I laughed. Out loud. It just slipped out. He looked annoyed. "What's so funny?" I said, "She took every picture of me out of this house and replaced them with your sister. And you're saying that's about making the house look nice?" She said she'd put them back. She said I have to earn my spot back, Jake. He rubbed his face like I was the one making things difficult. "They cleaned the whole house. They're helping. You've been overwhelmed and you won't admit it." I stepped closer. "And you think this is helping? Gaslighting me in my own home? Erasing me from my daughter's life? You think that's okay?" He didn't answer. And in that silence I knew. He wasn't just allowing it. He liked it. He liked having his mom run the show again. Liked having everything spotless and calm, even if it meant cutting me out of the picture. So I started planning. Not a dramatic blow-up. Not yelling and crying and slamming doors. I started paying attention. I checked the Wi-Fi router. I found a device connected to our network with a name I didn't recognize. I looked in the corners of the living room and kitchen and saw it. Small black cameras. Hidden, but not well. One behind a plant. One on top of the fridge. They were watching me. I waited until Margaret and her husband went out to lunch that Thursday. Jake was at work. I borrowed my friend Lena's laptop and used the IP address I pulled from the router. Found a local network login. No password change. Rookie mistake. There were files. Video files. Dozens of them. Labeled by date. I clicked one. It was me, walking into the house that Sunday night, reacting to the missing photos. Another clip showed me crying in the hallway. Another one, me cleaning up after Toby while Riley screamed in the background. They weren't just watching me. They were building a case. Trying to prove I was unstable. That I couldn't handle the house. That I wasn't a fit mother. I copied everything to a flash drive and put it in a new email I created under a fake name. Sent it to myself just in case. Then I deleted all the local files and unplugged the cameras. That night, I smiled at Margaret during dinner. Told her the casserole was amazing. Let Jake hold my hand like he was some kind of hero. They thought they were winning. But I had something now. And I was going to burn their little plan to the ground. The next few days, I played my part. Smiling. Saying thank you. Pretending to appreciate the help. Jake seemed more relaxed. Margaret baked muffins. His dad fixed a squeaky cabinet. Everything looked normal on the outside. But inside, I was boiling. I didn't tell anyone what I'd found yet. Not even Lena. I needed more. I needed to know how far this went. So I checked our bank account. That's when I saw something weird. A $3,000 withdrawal. Labeled home maintenance. From our joint savings. I asked Jake about it that night while we were folding laundry. Tried to sound casual. He hesitated, then said, "Mom needed help with some stuff. She's done so much for us," I figured. "You took $3,000 from our savings and gave it to your mom without telling me?" "She's family. She's done more around here in a week than you have in months." That one hit hard. I felt the sting in my chest, but I didn't let it show. He kept talking like it was no big deal. "She said she needed to get the house in order. Something about future custody, just in case anything happens." I stopped folding. "What did you just say?" He blinked. "I mean, you've been stressed. If anything happened, mentally, like postpartum stuff." I just stared at him. My hands felt numb. This wasn't about cleaning the house. It wasn't even about helping with Riley or Toby. They were setting me up. They were preparing to take custody. That night, I pulled out the flash drive. I added the new details. Screenshots of the bank statements. Notes about the cameras, about the comments Jake made. I made a backup and stored it in the glove compartment of my car. The next twist came when Lena called me crying on Sunday morning. "I didn't know who else to call," she said. "Your mother-in-law came by my house." "What?" "She said she was worried about you. That you were paranoid. She asked if I'd noticed anything off. She said they might need a character witness for something soon." That confirmed it. They weren't just talking behind my back. They were preparing a case against me. And they were moving fast. So I took a sick day on Monday, dropped Riley off at daycare, made sure everyone was out of the house, and started digging. I pulled down old boxes, papers, anything I could think of. And then I found it. In Jake's desk drawer. A manila envelope. Inside was a petition for full custody. My name listed as the respondent. Jake as the sole guardian. Attached were fake incident reports, written out descriptions of me yelling, crying, neglecting Riley. Unfiled, but prepared. At the bottom of one was a note. "Use Beth as temp guardian if Erica is removed." Beth. His sister. The one in all the pictures. They weren't just replacing me in the house. They were erasing me from my daughter's life. Replacing me in court, on paper, in photos, everywhere that counted. I sat there holding those papers for 10 minutes, shaking. Then I stood up. And I started making calls. To a lawyer. To a therapist. To a women's shelter advocate my friend knew. To a private investigator. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to make them regret ever thinking I would. I wish I could say things turned around quietly, but revenge doesn't work that way. It took me 3 weeks. 3 weeks of pretending. Playing the role of the overwhelmed mom, grateful daughter-in-law, forgiving wife. 3 weeks of watching them lay their little traps, never knowing I had already disarmed them all. My lawyer was sharp. A woman named Trina, who had seen it all before. She reviewed the fake custody paperwork and said, "They're preparing to paint you as mentally unfit. We're going to make sure they drown in that lie." My therapist signed off on my mental wellness. I got clean evaluations, documented sessions, and notes confirming I was stable.
Healthy.
Protective.
Smart.
The private investigator? He found more. Margaret had filed anonymous complaints against me to CPS, twice. Both unfounded, both closed. But they were there. A paper trail of sabotage. Jake's sister Beth had even tried to enroll Riley in a daycare near her home in another county. Without my consent. Without my name on the paperwork. That was the final straw. I waited until a Thursday. Everyone was home. Margaret was cooking. Jake was watching TV. Beth had come over to visit but brought a suitcase. I told Jake I needed to talk. We sat at the table. I pulled out a stack of folders and the flash drive. I handed them to him and said, "These are copies. Yours to keep. The originals are already with my lawyer, the court, and a friend with instructions if anything happens to me." He laughed. "What is this, some kind of game?" I didn't laugh back. "It's every file I found. The footage you took of me. The notes for court. The lies. The CPS complaints. The money you gave your mom. The daycare forms Beth filled out." His face went pale. Margaret walked in and saw the papers. Her mouth dropped. "You've been spying on us?" she said. I looked right at her. You put cameras in my home. You tried to make me look unstable. You tried to take my daughter. Jake stood up, angry. You're overreacting. We were just protecting Riley. I stayed calm.
No.
You were building a case to erase me. Now I've built one to end you. That night, I packed Riley's things. I had already rented a furnished apartment with help from my friend Lena and some quiet savings I'd been setting aside. I filed for divorce the next morning. Full custody. Emergency order. Trina said the judge would eat it up once they saw the video clips, the withdrawal logs, the daycare forms, and the CPS pattern. It wasn't even close. I won emergency custody that day. Jake was given supervised visits, pending psychiatric evaluation. The court ordered a forensic review of the hidden surveillance. Margaret and Beth were named as coercive influences, not allowed near Riley unless under professional supervision. I left the courtroom feeling like I could finally breathe. The next weeks were ugly. Jake blew up my phone with messages, everything from apologies to threats. Margaret called my job pretending to be concerned about my mental state. But I was ready. Every call logged. Every voicemail saved. Their trap had become my case. By the time our final custody hearing came around, they were the ones begging to be seen as fit to visit Riley. Jake looked wrecked. Margaret cried in court. The judge gave me full legal and physical custody. Jake got biweekly visits with a court-appointed supervisor. No overnights. And the kicker? The judge ordered Margaret to pay part of my legal fees. Beth? She vanished from the picture once the judge referenced her fake daycare forms and threatened her with fraud charges if she ever interfered again. The house? I sold it. I used the money to pay off debts and get a new place with no memories.
No cameras. No shadows.
Toby passed 2 weeks after I moved out. I held him as he slipped away. He was the only one in that house who ever gave me real loyalty. Looking back, I made mistakes. I waited too long to fight back. I let them get too close. But when I finally stood up, I didn't stop. They tried to erase me. I made damn sure they'd never forget me.